Welcome guys to strategy session. And as I was just saying, we're gonna do some gameplay. I'll try and make this interactive so you guys can suggest openings, suggest moves, and we'll try and beat as many players as possible. Last week I did this and we lost the first game and it was really sad. So this time we'll try and stay clean and try and play some good quality chess. So what I'm going to do is join the hourly rapid arena, which is one of the main tournaments on Lichess. I think it happens every hour or every 2 hours, and it's an easy way to get a game. This one is a 2-hour long tournament, 10+0, so there's going to be no increment, just 10 minutes per side. And game is starting. We're playing Monte Caseros. Okay, we get rating points too. I'm really sorry about that. That usually doesn't happen, but last time it happened where the guy left mid-game, and then the previous time someone left after 4 moves. Okay, so we're in 50th place. I'll explain how the tournament works, because every game you win, you get points. After that game, we won 2 tournament points. If we're on a streak, we get 1 additional point. So we need to keep winning games to maximize the number of points we gain. If a game doesn't start in the next 30 seconds, we might switch to the lobby just to get a quicker game. I really don't know what's going on here. Okay, there we go. We have Yudi-aja. Let's play d4. And if he plays d5, we'll play Queen's Gambit. He plays c5. This is kind of a reverse Queen's Gambit, where he's offering us a pawn. I'm going to go ahead here and play what I normally play. I will say that the best and most principled move is d5. And then goes into Benoni. I'm going to take on c5. And there's a very specific way white can play this to try and give black problems from early on. So he plays e6. I'm going to play knight c3. And the idea here is that he takes on c5, and now I'll go for knight e4. And now I'm attacking the bishop, and the square on d6 is very weak. And this is something I've played many times before. We're going to go in and invade with knight d6. And he's going to take. We're going to take back with the queen. This is already like a comfortable position for white. Now he is moving very quickly. This is rapid chess. But we already have the bishop pair. We have a queen pretty much in the heart of his position. Now after knight e7, he wants to play knight f5 and attack the queen. So I'm just going to play e4. Just a useful center grabbing move, controlling space. And now it's probably time to develop the rest of the white pieces. Probably should focus on kingside development. I'm going to play the most flexible move, knight f3. So I'm not entirely sure where these bishops would like to end up. Feel free if anyone wants to suggest a move here. I'm thinking that, yeah, I'm thinking the light square bishop should develop first, so white can just castle. Bishop e2 looks very safe, so I don't really see a purpose for the bishop coming to c4. Yeah, I like bishop e2. And we can see the queen is actually causing him a lot of problems, because there's no immediate way for him to attack the queen, because this pawn is very nicely placed, restricting the knight. So he's appearing to try to kind of develop around the queen. Okay, now it makes sense, I think, just to castle, complete development. And one of the main advantages white has in this position is control over the half-open d-file. So we would like to get a rook to d1. Rook d1 is playable right away, simply to attack the pawn. Another option would be developing the bishop first, maybe bishop g5 or bishop f4. I'm going to play rook d1, putting immediate pressure and putting him in a situation where, okay, if he wants to defend the pawn, knight b8 is not the most attractive move for him. But now he is attacking the pawn in e4. So we can look to defend the pawn, we can look to counterattack. Bishop g5 could be a counterattacking option, but it could run into f6. I do like the position for white though, and I'm looking for resources here. Yeah, pawn e5 is an option, but it opens up his bishop and it opens up the f5 square for his knight. So I think the pawn should be reinforced on e4. One move that comes to mind that maybe doesn't look that attractive, but simply bishop d3, just to defend the pawn and keep all the tension in the position. Another move would be retreating the queen to like f4 or d4. Because there is a time limit. Let's play bishop d3. I think this keeps the most amount of tension. Next move, whoa, knight c8. He's undeveloping. Well, now we have to move the queen. Let's drop back to g3. If we notice, most of his pieces are just so passive on the queen side. And a good number of our pieces have potential to attack on the king side. Like already there's some idea of bishop h6. So bishop f4 is one move, attacking the knight. Right. I mean, bishop h6 also looks really attractive because we're threatening mate in 1. And I'm not sure how he defends. Like if he plays queen f6, maybe that defends. We play e5, but then he takes our bishop. So we could play e5 first with the threat of bishop h6. I actually really like e5. Because so we're not planning bishop f4, we're planning bishop h6. And in playing e5, we're essentially opening up the other bishop too. So now we have 4 potentially very strong attackers, and he has so many pieces out of play, doing almost nothing. So the situation is good for us, but it still might be hard to execute the attack. So bishop h6 is an option, but then he can play queen e7. I think it makes sense to take en passant, to keep this diagonal open, even though we give him some center. So he takes back with the queen. So bishop g5 is one move, but then he might go pawn grabbing. That could be very playable for white, but it might require some calculation. So let's imagine bishop g5, queen take b2, and maybe queen h4, threatening h7.
Wait, can we play queen h3, threatening h7, and e4?
Queen h3 immediately.
No, after.
Oh, after, okay, bishop g5, queen take b2. Queen h3 is a nice move. Threatening e6 as well, threatening h7. Black can't defend both. Let's go for that. Yeah, I really like that. Because queen take b2, it looks wrong. Okay, he doesn't go for it. He keeps things, trying to keep things defended. But now knight e5 looks really attractive. This is a nice tempo move. Attacking the queen, improving the knight. His queen has to move again. I think his queen will probably move here, unless he wants to retreat to one of these squares. So he plays queen h5. And it's still up to us to continue with some attack. And perhaps it's not the easiest position to get anything immediate. In a position like this, because our time is low, I'm just going to play a natural improving move, rook e1. Yeah, when you don't see much, you just want to improve your pieces, especially when you're down on time. Rook e1 aims to perhaps target this this backward pawn in the long term, and and also, okay, if we ever move the knight, the pawn's not defended, so we could have some simple discover attacks like knight f3, or even I'm imagining if he plays knight to c6, we could play knight d7. Plays knight d6. Well, now this knight is undefended, and there's a move, I think there's a very simple tactic here, bishop e7. Though maybe it's not so simple, because bishop e7 could be met with knight f5. Then we could take it, he takes with rook. Looks very close, but Well, the knight's still on e5.
Oh, it's on.
So bishop e7, knight f5. At some point, I'm going to have to just start moving a lot quicker. I'm going to play knight to f3, because this unleashes the rook and unleashes the queen, and it over-defends the bishop. Okay, he's moving very quickly. I think we should take the knight, because it's an annoying piece.
Wait, what if we play bishop e2?
Too late, because we're low on time. I gotta move much quicker. Let's play knight to d4, pressuring the pawn. He has double pawns here, which are both potentially weak. At some point, I might switch gears completely and focus just on positional chess. I might just want to solidify it at some point with bishop to e3, put the rook on d1, and be in a spot where I can play much quicker moves. I'm going to start with rook d1. Another idea is to play b3 and c4, try and restrict his bishop. Sorry?
Oh, no, never mind.
Okay, let's move the bishop back to e3. And a big component, especially of these like 10-minute games, is moving quickly, time management. Time management in the opening probably wasn't that great. It's always hard to play and give commentary and manage time. But okay, so he wants to play rook to g6. I don't think there's a huge threat with that, because the queen could perhaps come into his territory. Maybe we can even start with something like queen c7. Yeah, I'm going to start with queen c7. Aggressive looking move. The queen still kind of defends from afar, and it also has a lot of attacking potential.
C4.
And now we are threatening c4, that's very true. And c4
That's a big threat.
actually traps his bishop. Didn't even realize that. But, okay, so he wants to trade queens. So I'm thinking queen c8 is one option.
And then he blocks it.
And he could block with the queen, then we can trade. I'm going to start with queen. The problem with queen c8, he could play this, and then he's threatening bishop to b7. I'm going to trade queens, because I know the position is good positionally, just based on the structure. And then b3 is coming next, yeah. And now we want to play c4. And the threat of c4 is to make the bishop move so we can win the e6 pawn. Yeah. And he can't play b5 to stop it. He probably has to defend the pawn. Like, he probably has to play one of these moves. Except he doesn't. Knight c6 is playable. We could take... I like knight b5.
Yeah, actually, this one.
Because we avoid the trade. We're threatening to
C4 and then
trap the bishop.
D6.
We have threats of knight d6, maybe targeting the pawn and the rook. But time is still a factor. That's an interesting move, because if we play c4, then the square is weak.
And then bishop d4.
Bishop d4 is one option. Bishop d4 and then c4. Yeah, let's go for that. So the problem with c4 was knight d3 could be very annoying in some lines. In this case, we're chasing the knight away to more passive square, and now c4. And then we'll get knight d6, and we'll try and keep the initiative, and try and keep moving quickly too. Sorry? Yeah, knight take e4 should be coming. I'm a little bit scared that he might have rook d7 with counterplay, though. I'm thinking that maybe we should go for b4 c5.
Wait, what if he takes the knight?
But oh wait, yeah, sorry, the knight is hanging. That's a very good point.
It's like bishop e3.
A bishop e3, rook here.
Knight.
Okay, we're gonna take on e4.
Oh,
Oh, but then he still has rook d8. This is actually very unpleasant. Maybe bishop b2 and then bishop a3. And then we somehow survive. I do apologize for time management overall. But we're still alive. Bishop a3. And now we would like to play b4, c5, except he can still take the knight. So we might have to double up. Ooh, knight d3 is a threat. Let's play rook to e3. Position's a bit shaky. Knight d3, but now we're unpinned. I think we can take the pawn.
What if he has a knight takes f2?
Knight take f2, I know it looks scary, but I think we survive after rook take d7. I mean, it could get very tactical very soon. I'm going to start pre-moving while I can. Okay, let's take. And then I'm going to bring the knight. Ooh, he's threatening mate, so f3. Just defending. If he takes our knight, we take back with rook and we counterattack his knight. I am capable of moving fast, so there is still hope. But he's attacking a pawn. Let's defend it. Knight c3. And yeah, we want to play king g3 at some point, except he can play g5. So let's play bishop d6, attacking the knight. The position objectively is good for white, if we don't look at time. But it's about winning this in 30 seconds. Ooh, interesting. Let's do this. Okay, he's winning a pawn, but we're going to play h5. And now it's a time scramble. Let's play rook d3. I want to play g4.
Yeah, and then rook d6.
And then rook d6 or king e3 and move the knight. I'm imagining a knight here and a rook here delivering mate. It could take a while, but maybe it's possible in 24 seconds. I'm happy his rook is completely out of play. Maybe king g3 at some point, where it's safer. Oh, king e3 defending the rook. Okay, we're going to take. Okay, hold tight. Let's defend the pawn with rook d4. 17 seconds. Ooh, bishop d6. That's a move. Okay, now we're threatening knight e5. We're threatening the rook. I think white is winning material. Yeah, we win material. Not much time left.
You might move the bishop.
Yeah, he might move the bishop, but then we might mate him. Like bishop take f3, knight g6. And we're threatening mate in 2. And how does he defend? Rook b2, king c1. If king f7, we still play rook d8. Okay, so he's created a open square, so we're going to push a pawn. 10 seconds left. Ooh, that was probably a bad move. But we can come back with the knight. Does anyone see mate? I'm looking for mate here. I'm going to pre-move this. Okay. I'm going to keep pre-moving. So I could bail out with a draw at some point, but this is a winning endgame. I'm going to try and win this. Because it's opposite color bishops. and his king is boxed out. And the great thing on lichess is when you pre-move, you don't lose any time.
Yeah, on chess.com it's like 0.6.
On chess.com, yeah, you would lose time. But on lichess, I'm going to try and play this for a win.
I'll actually do increment time and slightly left safer.
He has to play king d6 to save the bishop. We win a pawn, because discover check. Okay, we won one pawn. That was nice. Now we have to somehow either mate the king or win the bishop. This is an easily winning endgame when we would have more time, but it's not so easy when you have to pre-move every move. And the key is to pre-move on dark squares.
You just move really quickly.
Yeah, he could start moving really quickly, which would probably be a good strategy, but he can't move too quickly because I can continue making threats.
Oh my, I thought that dropped the rook.
No, the rook was defended by the bishop.
You could force a draw right now.
I could take the bishop anytime I want, but I don't want to take the
Since
bishop.
he knows you're pre-moving when you had your bishop on G.
Okay, we're going to try to mate with just the king and the rook.
Oh my god.
Ew.
It's difficult. Oh no, I dropped the rook. Okay. I think I can just repeat. Oh no, I dropped the bishop. And this is a loss, unless he repeats. This is winning for him. We're going to pray for stalemate somehow. Ah, rough. That is very rough.
That guy's like, oh wow, I didn't have him.
I'm sure he's very happy to have won that game. Sometimes that's what happens when you play for a win. Actually, the resulting endgame I think is really interesting to try and demonstrate how to win this position. Because his bishop, or because his pawn and bishop defend each other, it is actually somewhat of a difficult position to win, even if you have a lot of time, because you have to somehow chase the king. And that game, how long was that game? That game was 136 moves.
Incredible.
Probably most of the moves I played with pre-moving in a 10-minute game, yeah. So what I would like to do, yeah, I want to show you guys actually a cool feature in lichess, which not too many people are aware of. And it applies in positions with 6 or less pieces on the board, which would be this position. We count the number of pieces, there's exactly 6. I don't know if you guys know this, but any position that has 6 or less pieces is solved. Have you guys heard of tablebase? Anyone? So tablebase is essentially a database of like all the positions which exist of 6 or less positions or 6 or less pieces on the board. And lichess has it built in for free. To access it, you can click this button right here. It's also the opening explorer, which is another tool. But if we click it, we can see that there's a lot of winning moves for white. And the cool thing is it will show basically all the legal moves and show how quickly they will lead to a win. Now we see this kind of weird, kind of acronym DTZ, which stands for distance to zeroing. We see DTZ 32. What this means is that it takes 32 half moves until the next capture. So basically until the 50 move rule resets. The 50 move rule being if 50 moves go by with no captures or no pawn moves, then it's a draw. So essentially in 16 moves, white will be able to force a capture. And instead of showing you how to win this, I'm going to have tablebase show us how to win this. And we'll try and make some sense of the moves that it suggests. So it says start with bishop g1. Okay, let's say black keeps waiting. It says rook e1. Black will keep waiting. And then rook d1. And now this makes sense to try and use the rook, the king, and the bishop to drive the king towards edge of the board while keeping watch of the pawn. So I'll keep clicking through the top moves here. Rook d4 makes a lot of sense. And some of the ideas apply from the basic rook checkmate where you want to box the king in with just your rook. Okay, so now we walk up the king. Rook h4. Oh, rook h4 is a nice waiting move, given that we just cut off the king and it's discovered check too. So the king is driven back, king e6, waits with the bishop, rook h5. So it seems like white keeps making the box smaller, and we'll keep clicking here. And it seems like there's a repeating pattern of some sorts. And the king is finally driven towards the edge. And now king a7 would be mate in one, so bishop f1. And now a really nice move from white, bishop to b6. Threatening mate in one. The only defense is to give up the pawn. Looks like bishop b5 would be the best try. Let's say bishop to b5. And then rook take h3. Once white wins the pawn, then the number is reset. And now we actually see DTM. DTM means distance to mate. And I'll just click through the top line just to show how white will eventually win. Takes the bishop, and I don't think we have to go any further. This is just winning. But it is cool to kind of use tablebase to see if a certain endgame is winning or drawn. And some endgames can be very, very complex, where DTD.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Distance to draw.
Oh, distance to draw. No, if it's a drawn endgame, it just says draw, and it doesn't give you a distance to anything. Anyway, try and and find some instructive value from this game. I'll show you guys another tool in Lichess, which is actually good for analyzing your own games, which I think Lichess already did, or it's in the process of doing, where it will go through and basically find all the blunders and mistakes. Now, it's taking a really long time here because the game is over 130 moves. So it's going through every single move and evaluating it with the engine and trying to find where we went wrong. Sorry?
How did you get it to analyze?
So sometimes it does it automatically. If it doesn't do it automatically, what you can do is usually below the board, it will give you a button that says Request Computer Analysis. And you just click on that, and it will analyze it. So maybe I can show you an example of another game I played that has computer analysis already used. Like, let's say this game. Analysis board. Oh, okay, right here, you see the button Request Computer Analysis. If we click that, then it will start analyzing. And then once it's done, it usually takes a few minutes. Then it will give you a bunch of statistics where it shows the blunders and mistakes and inaccuracies. And it's a really nice tool if you want to kind of quickly go over a game. Oh, so if you play, yeah, so I can do a quick demo here and just show how to do it if you play like an over-the-board game and you want to analyze in Lichess. So yeah, we'll switch gears. We'll probably save time for like one more game towards the end. But I think this will be useful for people to know how to do, because it's a great kind of self-study method. So what you can do, if you want to access the tools, like all the tools built into Lichess, you go to Learn and Study. If anyone's familiar with ChessBase, this is kind of Lichess's version of kind of many of the tools in ChessBase, where we can go create new study. And it gives us a bunch of options here. I'm just going to call this strategy session. And if you want to, you can make it public to the whole world. I'll leave it as public. You can allow people to collaborate. For this one, I'll just click Start. And let's say you play in a tournament, and you have the score sheet, you have the game, and you want to put it in Lichess. What you can do is just start with initial position. You can maybe name it your name versus your opponent's name. You can say like Rosen, Carlson, or whatever. And then you just enter the moves like normal. I recommend entering the moves without having the engine turned on, at least at the beginning, and try and arrive at your own conclusions. If you wanted to access just Stockfish and just have the Stockfish recommendations, you can access it with this toggle right here. And Stockfish, it'll spit out a number, and it's usually does a good job of giving you an idea of who's better in the position. Let's say we make a really bad blunder for white and we play bishop a6. Then Stockfish will say -3. And the valuation is basically how many pawns one side is down. So if it says -3, white is down the equivalent of about 3.5 pawns here, which makes sense because a bishop is worth about 3 points and black can just take the bishop. And usually if one side has like an advantage of +2 or -2, then it's considered a winning advantage. Let's say you play the full game and you want the computer analysis on the full game. Let's actually, I'll just show a quick miniature. Yeah, I'm about to show that. But we need a game first. So I'm going to show a quick miniature in the Caro-Kann. I should also note you can add sub-variations like it has here. If I wanted to make this the main line, I just right-click, make main line. I can delete the other variation if I wanted to. So the game I'm about to show, it's a 5-move game I played many years ago as a young kid. And I used an opening trap from this position. I played queen e2. I was playing against a much older guy, and he played knight gf6. And then, does anyone want to say the next move? Then I played knight d6 mate. So let's say this is a game I want to analyze. Now I should rename this. This is not Rosen Carlson. This is Rosen some guy. And what we can do is go below the board, and it gives us a bunch of options. If we wanted to like annotate it, we can like give an X slam for good move. And this is useful if you're like building out your preparation or reading from a book and you want to save the annotations. But we can go to computer analysis and then simply request analysis. And this should take pretty quickly, just hopefully a few seconds. Actually, it already gives us analysis. That was really quick. And if you see here, it gives what's called the average centipawn loss, which it's a bit difficult to explain. If you Google average centipawn loss, you'll find a pretty good definition. But essentially, the lower the centipawn loss, the closer to perfection one side played, according to the engine. So if you have a centipawn loss of 0, then you play the perfect game, according to the engine. We can see in this position, black's average centipawn loss is 213, which is really bad. Anything over 100 is not that great. And it was just because of this really big blunder, knight f6, where if black played something like e6, then it wouldn't be so bad for black. I'm actually surprised. So the engine will automatically like give some annotations here. I'm a bit surprised that it says queen e2 is a fine move, because queen e2, in my opinion, is a dubious move, given that it blocks a bishop. And it's basically a hope move, hoping that black falls for a smothered mate. But yeah, this is a really nice tool if you're playing online or if you're playing in a tournament and you want to save all of your games in a digital format. And the great thing here, you can save a collection of games. This is chapter 1. If we wanted to add a new chapter, we just click Add New Chapter. Let's say if we wanted this chapter to be a position and not necessarily a game, I could add that here. Could empty board, and I could maybe show some endgame position. So I use this a lot for my own studies, but I also use it for teaching, where it's just great to kind of organize material. And then if I make a public study, then anyone can access it. And just to show this one example of the table base, this would be a drawn endgame, and the table base just shows basically every move is drawn for black, except a few moves are losing.
Bishop.
Exactly 3 moves are losing.
Bishop E4.
Yeah, so don't play any of those moves. So any questions about this? Anything you want me to explain in more detail? If not, I think we can try and play another game and hopefully redeem ourselves and end on a good note. So I don't think we'll have time for a 10-minute game, but we'll try and get in like a blitz game. And I will try to play a lot faster than the previous game. Yeah, so let's pause the tournament. Let's go back to the home page. We can play 5+3. This is the easiest way to start a game. You just click, and it should eventually pair us. We could also look to see who's seeking a game. We could play this guy, 5+4. Lincoln won. And we're black.
Sicilian.
You want Sicilian? Okay, we'll play Sicilian. Any specific variation?
Dragon.
Dragon, okay.
Hyper-accelerated.
Hyper-accelerated. Okay, it's very specific. So G6 here.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, D3. D3 is a passive move. But normally we can just continue with the dragon setup. We'll play D6. We'll play knight F6 and castle. Looks like he might be going for an eventual D4. Usually in these closed structures where they don't really challenge the center immediately, it's a good idea to expand on the queen side. So I'm going to go for that right away with B5. And even support it with rook B8. And usually you want to attack in the direction that your pawn chain is pointing. So if you have a pawn chain and it's pointing towards one side, then most of the time it makes sense to attack on that side. So that's what I'm doing here. And the pawn chain actually combines very well with this bishop on G7, because the pawns and the bishop work together to control a lot of key squares in the center. It's one of the nice things about playing the dragon. I'm going to just keep improving the position. Queen B6. I'm going to go for bishop A6 very soon. Just complete development. Except after C4, the bishop doesn't have much purpose on A6, so I'm going to play bishop B7. And one square which looks really weak in his territory is this D4 square. So I play knight D7 to unleash the bishop, targeting D4. He wants to play bishop B2 and neutralize everything, which may be not a bad plan. So I'm going to jump in immediately. And I would be completely okay if he takes. I would probably take back with the pawn, because the pawn on D4 controls some nice space. It kicks away the knight. And the position transforms a little bit. We have the knight having access now to C5. He is threatening this pawn. I'm going to play E6.
What, the queen? The queen.
Oh, the queen. Okay, thanks for alarming me. That would have been really tragic.
Yeah.
We could take the knight. We could also play queen D8. Yeah, again, sometimes it's hard to talk and play like accurately.
Isn't doing much, so I think we should just do it.
But the knight could be a problem for him. Like if we play queen D8, then E6, his knight gets kicked around.
Yeah, then-
I'm gonna leave
then
the
bishop will be good.
I'm gonna leave the bishop on the board and go for E6 next move. Now this knight actually only has one safe square on F4, where it looks really awkward.
G5.
Then we could potentially play G5.
Nah.
Bishop G5. Maybe F6. It looks really ugly, but the bishop has to move. Then we play E6.
Wait, what about H6?
This pawn is attacked.
Oh, yeah.
That one I see. Let's play F6. Because yeah, the bishop has to move. If it moves back, then we play E6, knight F4, and then G5, and we fork. If the bishop moves here, we trap the knight.
Oh, wow.
Okay, we're about to fork him. Except if he plays knight F4, he's threatening to fork us.
Oh, yeah.
So the name of the game is Don't Get Forked, which the St. Louis Chess Club actually has a whole series of YouTube videos called Don't Get Forked. It's like a whole game show type format.
Is it not colored in that one?
Ryan Chester does it.
Rookie
Rook e8 is one move. I like knight c5. It's a bit more active. We defend. The knight can't really get kicked around.
I guess we're gonna try.
And the amazing thing here is we're threatening the fork. I was about to say we're also threatening to trap the knight, but he has knight h5.
Look, after knight h5, queen e8.
Well, the bishop defends. So I don't want to give him that square right away. I'm going to start with queen e8.
Why not
Yeah,
E4?
Yeah.
Oh, e5, then he goes back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to make any commitments too soon.
Wait, could we play a4? Trying to
So a4 is one idea. I just don't want it to be in his favor because he could take and open the file. Let's improve the bishop. The bishop has no purpose on g7. It has more purpose on h6. He might play knight h3. Then he would be attacking the pawn. And then I'll go for rook d8 and just defend. Very unusual position. A strange pawn structure. Now he's expanding. Now e5 looks slightly tempting.
But then he could break our thing. He could break our king by playing
f5, but then we take and the bishop opens up. I'm going to go for e5. There's not too much time. Now I should note in this game there's an increment.
bishop e3.
And yeah, if his pawn goes away, we would have bishop to
But then
e3. Rook f1.
bishop
Bishop
is c8.
c8 is definitely a move, which I think it just improves the position. Because the bishop doesn't like to be staring at like a really solid pawn. It likes the more open diagonal. At some point, I might like to play king h8 too, where if he ever does play f5, we would like to take and have a rook on g8 to control the open g file. So let's play king h8. This is just a quick improving move. I'm already fantasizing about somehow getting our knight to e3. That could take a very long time. But it's a closed position, so we might have time to rearrange things. I'm also looking at maybe ideas of bishop e6 and queen d7. But okay, he takes. Probably take with this pawn. Now we no longer have double pawns. And there might be some idea of playing f5.
Bishop e3. Can you just
Bishop e3 I like very much. What did you want to say?
No, after d takes e5, didn't you just give white a pass pawn technically?
Yeah, but it's not a dangerous pass pawn. Technically it is a pass pawn, but it's not going anywhere.
Sure, it's blockaded.
And yeah, no, I like this position. Like black has some space advantage. The bishop on e3 is very annoying. I play bishop e6 because I want to play queen d7. And I would like to keep improving. I don't want to trade bishops. The rule is when you have a space advantage, you should avoid trading minor pieces. And the idea is to just slowly build up, like queen d7, rook f7, and rook df8.
wait. I know you said not to trade the bishops, but if after you play queen e7, can you play bishop takes?
Bishop take knight,
Pawn takes, and then bishop f.
a bishop f4, maybe. It's a possibility. G4 kind of coming out of nowhere. He's trying to be aggressive. Queen d7 looks very attractive, yeah. Because if he plays g5, we can take the knight and then attack the rook. And meanwhile, we're just attacking g4. So I'm expecting probably rook g1 or king g3. At some point very soon, f5 will be a major idea. So he plays queen d1. I'm going to start with rook f7, yeah. There's no rush. And usually if you have a pawn break in mind, you want to optimize your pieces and then carry through with a pawn break. Because the rule is when the position opens up, it's going to favor whosever pieces are better placed. If we optimize all the pieces, then black will just have a better setup. And white's pieces are not too impressive here. And hey, we have a time advantage. It's a miracle. Okay, let's play rook df8. Seems like he wants to play g5, but he doesn't want to open the f file. Maybe bishop back to e3. Nice quick move. It's always nice when you can play a quick move with tempo. But again, we probably don't want to trade, so we'll repeat once.
You didn't do it again.
And now, okay, now I'm thinking about f5. Because if he plays g5, we could take and then attack the knight.
What about e takes?
And if he takes with the e pawn, we take with f pawn, and then if g5, we retreat the bishop.
No, no. But what if the pawn on e takes and he plays bishop h5?
Oh, he plays bishop h5 there, attacking the rook. We could slide the rook over.
But then rook takes and then, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's go for f5. Actually, no. I'm going to play queen d6 first. There's no rush, and I want the queen on the same diagonal as the king. So if he ever would take with the e pawn, okay, he really wants to trade the bishops. Let's turn him down. Because f5 is coming.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
What's an LM?
An LM, a Lichess Master.
Like, what rating do you have to do?
There's no rating requirement. You technically have to be, I think the language they use, you have to be a good Lichess citizen. So you basically have to like behave well on the site and help people like in the forums. But let's focus on this game. Now if f5, knight g5 could happen, so this might be a long grind. I don't want to do anything too committal. Knight g5. We could play h6. And then he could play h5. Okay, I'm going to play a waiting move.
Yeah.
Maybe have some idea of playing a4, even though it's probably not realistic. There's also some idea of playing knight e6 to control g5. And maybe put the bishop back on c6. Very closed position. Okay, he wants to double up.
Wait, can we play f5 and if the e takes?
Yeah, f5. f5 looks attractive here, because knight g5 is currently not too threatening, because we can take. And if he ever takes with the pawn, we'll have this discovered check.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And if he does nothing, we would probably want to play f4, or maybe even just take. We'll have some good options. So he plays knight g5. So let's just take. And f4 is probably coming.
Yeah, and then we just want to pawn right? f4, queen e7.
Well, it depends. Okay, he takes with pawn. So we have a choice between f4 and taking. Taking looks really attractive because I don't see how he saves material. Because if we calculate rook take f7, pawn take e4, we'll have rook f2 in the end. Oh, but then he has rook g2. But at least we'll have a nice defended pass pawn.
Yeah, and his pawns are double.
His pawns are doubled, but they're well defended.
Wait,
Okay, I'm going to go for rook e2. Yeah, rook take e2 and d3, right? It should just win material. He has c5. It's complicated. But this could be a winning calculation. So rook take e2, d3, c5. Then queen d4. That should be winning. I don't think he's getting enough counterplay. c6, we win the queen. Let's go for that. Always nice having this pawn. We finally forked him. We wanted to do it a long time ago, but
wait. Oh, yeah, no.
so I think c5 is the best try. Otherwise, if he retreats the queen, we're just going to take the rook and be up a bishop. So he just resigns. That was nice. Okay, we at least won a real game. You guys can applaud. That was nice. I think we'll end it there. But yeah, I would encourage people, even if you don't usually play on Lichess, checking out their tools and using them for your own study, I think can be very effective. So hope you guys enjoyed that and have a good night. Yeah.